So I'm a little nervous about this one because A, I'm very worried that they're gonna be terrible, and because of past experience, and I'm also a little disappointed because I really want to eat these, and it's like, it's kind of late, and I just really kind of wanted a snack, and I feel inclined to turn the camera on anytime I eat a bag of these chips, no matter what sort of condition I'm in. And unfortunately, it's a fascinating subject, and normally I would have researched the shit out of it and given this whole expose and history lesson, but I'm not going to do that now. I'm just going to give a sort of cursory overview and encourage you to do your own research. And this is Tsingtao Beer flavored potato chips by Lay's China, right? Yep, Lay's China. Now, I love this beer. Tsingtao is one of my top favorite beers. I always get it. Anytime I go to dim sum Chinese restaurant, always without any question, always get that. It's my favorite beer to drink with Chinese food, and sometimes I just buy it and drink it for the hell of it. I've been drinking it for years and years and years, and it's a fine beer. I really enjoy it. Has a really interesting history. Beer, I just read, has been in China for centuries. You know, beer wasn't brought to China by the Europeans, although the Europeans during like the colonial era did bring sort of like modern brewing methods to China. And originally Tsingtao was like a sort of joint venture between like a Hong Kong Chinese company and Germans. And it switched hands many, many times over the decades, and was briefly controlled by the Japanese during their occupation in between the two world wars. And eventually after Japan lost the war, then the Tsingtao went back to China, and then the communists came to power and seized control of it, and now it was like a state-run beer company. It's really fascinating, so fucking fascinating. That's just the tip of the iceberg. It's so fascinating that they actually have a museum somewhere. Somewhere in China, the Tsingtao Beer Museum, and these are the people that sponsored this particular bag of chips, and it just wound up here in Chinatown. So that's about that with that. Now I'm very hungry and ready to snack, and I wish I could just get to it. But I have to say that before I dig into this, I did a couple of, wow, interesting. It smells like beer immediately. That's shocking, because some of the worst potato chips I've ever had in my life, and I've had some pretty bad ones, have been by Lay's China, and they were attempting to taste like beer. There was like the peach beer, and there was another beer flavor. They put out two of them, beautiful bags. Some of the most god-awful chips I've ever had in my life. They were sweet. They didn't taste anything like beer. It was a struggle to get them down. And so it's like trying to make a beer chip, you know, from Lay's. It sounds challenging, but this is really weird. It really does have a note of actual beer smell. And beer does have a smell and a taste. It tastes carbonated. How can that be? Uh-oh. No. I mean, no. Damn. Here's a problem. Oh, I don't like these, but they're sweet for some reason. I don't know. It's the same thing that they did with those other two bags of fucking chips. Something there's like a carbonated smell, or trying to get that fizzy vibe and put some kind of sugar in it. And it's not as bad. Why couldn't it taste the way it smelled? Why did you put so much sugar in this? Gorgeous bag. I haven't made potato chip figures in a while. Maybe I should do that. Anyway, the only other time I had a beer flavored chip was Guinness. Was it Keogh's? Irish company made Guinness flavored chips, and they weren't great either, but they did kind of taste like Guinness. Guinness has a distinct taste that's different than others. They just sprinkled like brewer's yeast on chips. At least that's closer than whatever the hell this crap is. Fuck.